Everybody, I'm Victor Maddox. I'm a lawyer in Louisville, Kentucky, and for the last 6 years I've had the privilege of serving as a member of the LSC board, along with an incredible list of colleagues and under the leadership of John Levy. Today it's my privilege to introduce to you Patrick Murphy. Mr. Murphy was appointed acting Secretary of the Army in January. As Secretary of the Army, he has statutory responsibility for all matters relating to the United States Army, to include 1.4 million soldiers and Department of the Army civilian, reserve affairs, installations, environmental issues, weapons systems, and equipment acquisition. As the 32nd Undersecretary of the Army and Chief Management Officer, he serves as the Army's principal advisor on matters related to the management of the operation of the Army, including the development and integration of the Army program and budget, which, by the way, is $144 billion. From 2007 to 2011, Mr. Murphy served as the first Iraq War veteran elected to the United States Congress, representing the 8th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. He served on the Armed Services Committee and was co-author of legislation including the 21st Century GI Bill and the Hire Our Heroes legislation. In 2008, he was instrumental in making the Washington Crossing National Veterans Cemetery a reality for over 300,000 veterans. Mr. Murphy was commissioned a second lieutenant and later served in the United States Army Judge Advocate General's Corps. And following 9/11, he served 2 overseas deployments, in Bosnia in 2002 and in Iraq in 2003 and 4. While serving in Iraq with the 82nd Airborne Division, he led a brigade operational law team and also earned a Bronze Star for his service. It's my privilege to introduce to you Secretary Patrick Murphy.
Thanks so much, Vic. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. A couple things. I'm going to have to give John Levy a hard time, who's been a great friend. But when I taught constitutional law at West Point, the worst class to teach was the mid-afternoon class after lunch when people have food coma. So you're my buddy, but yeah, you gave me this time slot, but that's okay. I love you. I just snuck over from the Pentagon, and I'm going to be short and sweet, but to all the justices, I saw some of your earlier panel, and I was back watching the last panel. And Jim, I especially appreciate your comments on your panel about making sure access to justice, are we making sure we're being customer centric and et cetera. But let me say a couple things right at the get-go. It's an honor to be serving back in the Army. As Vic so generously stated, I was in the Army. I joined at age 19 and was lucky enough, if it wasn't for the Army and to become an Army officer, I wouldn't have been a professor at West Point. I wouldn't have been a U.S. congressman, and I wouldn't be the acting Secretary of the Army, which is the largest department in the Department of Defense. To put it bluntly, if we were a Fortune 500 company, which we're not, but if we were, we'd be Fortune 10. And that's just in budget. We'd be Fortune 2 in personnel. So I have committed my life to access for justice. When I was in the Army, I was commissioned as an officer. Eventually, I was cut loose to go to law school, but I was the civic leader for the Harrisburg Civil Law Clinic, so helping the poor and indigent to Harrisburg. So one idea that I have, I'm going to make 3 asks of you, because I want to, when you leave these conferences, you're saying, well, what am I going to do when I leave? 3 things. So write it down. Number 1, contact the clinics. I don't know if you're a justice, you could do this too. Contact the, or if you're out there, contact the clinic and let them know you want to be helpful, especially with veterans issues. And whether just saying, hey, I'm supportive, what can we do? Ask questions like, do you have veterans courts? There's over 200 veterans courts in America. There should be at least 5 times that amount. So, number 1, ask the tough questions. Go back, say, Secretary of the Army ordered me. I don't know if he's allowed to or not, I'm not in the Army, but so ask about that, because I will tell you, the Veteran Centers for Legal Aid, which was an initiative by Chairman John Levy and LSC, has been a game changer. And we are eternally grateful for our veterans out there. So if you could do that, number 1, I'd appreciate it. Number 2, Please help change the narrative. Veterans are not victims. You see the commercials like I do, over $250,000 a year spent on TV saying for only $19 a month you can help these poor veterans. Are there veterans that fall through the cracks? Absolutely. Are veterans more likely to be homeless? Yes. Are veterans more likely to commit suicide? Yes, 22 veterans every day commit suicide. 301 active duty soldiers, reserve soldiers, National Guardsmen, and their family members committed suicide last year. And that was on our side, veterans 22 a day. 18 of those 22, by the way, are not within the VA system. But when I say change the narrative, veterans are civic assets. Veterans are more likely to be employed than civilians. Veterans actually make on average $10,000 more a year. Veterans are more likely to vote no matter what their political persuasion is. Veterans are more likely to be Little League coaches or pastors. So when I say change the narrative, it makes a big difference, because let me tell you something. Demographics are destiny. The demographics in our country is not exactly in veterans' favor. In World War II, there were 16 million veterans. Vietnam, there's 5.5 million veterans. In my generation, Iraq and Afghanistan war veterans, there's 2.6 million veterans. Except Iraq and Afghanistan's, over the last 15 years, the longest wars in American history. So compared to World War II, when you say our country's almost double the size in population, we have 330 million veterans, but yet less than 1% served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, I will say the positive thing is that the lesson learned from Vietnam is that our country as a whole did not separate the war from the warrior. So whether you were for the Vietnam War or not, you probably didn't do a good job welcoming those veterans home. Whether you were for Iraq or not, or Afghanistan, it's not the veterans that go to war. Veterans go to war, but they're the ones that choose to fight. They're the ones that are sent to fight by our political leadership in our country. So when I say change the narrative, I will tell you, when I was 19, and my wife's not here as a lawyer, so I could tell the story. But when I was 19, I was dating a girl, and I went home to see her father, and I was in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And her father said, Patrick, why would you join Army ROTC? I don't understand. You're on the dean's list. I was the captain of our collegiate hockey team. He's like, why would you do this? Basically, it's beneath you, Patrick. It's not beneath me. It's not beneath your sons and daughters or granddaughters and grandsons. And if you think that, even subconsciously, you should think about it. Think about the opportunities that it gives. Think about some of the great successes, because also when you talk about veterans as civic assets, veterans are more likely to be Fortune 500 executives, more likely to be small business owners. When I went running this morning, I had a pair of Nikes on. Do you know Nike was founded by a veteran? Bill Bowerman was a student at the University of Oregon. He was there when Pearl Harbor happened. He volunteered the next day, became an Army officer, went over to Europe, got the Silver Star, 4 Bronze Stars, came back and did what veterans do. He went back to his community, became the track coach at the University of Oregon, and Phil Knight was his student. And he started Nike in the back of his van using his wife's waffle iron, and broke it, and he was actually in trouble about it at one point. But you look at the largest media company in the world is Comcast. After I served in Congress, after serving in the military, after Congress, and before taking this role, I worked for NBC. NBC is owned by Comcast. Comcast started by a Navy veteran, Ralph Roberts. The largest healthcare company in the world right now is what? Johnson & Johnson. It is run by an Army veteran named Alex Gorski, who did 5 years, graduated from West Point, did 5 years active duty, went out, went to Wharton, and is now a leader of the largest healthcare company in the world. So please, I know many of you are already helping veterans. I know you care about it. But just make sure that when you're talking about veterans, you're not making them sound like they're victims, because we're not. I know LSC has done a very good job at threading the needle out there, because we do need help. We can't leave anyone behind. We have an ethic in the Army and the military that we leave no one behind, and we need your help in that. but just make sure that we also look at the other side of the coin. The third thing I would say to you is help us recruit the next generation. I didn't tell John Levy I was going to talk about this, but I'm going to mention it to you. Okay, so I apologize. It's not an Army.com commercial. I'm worried. We have the greatest military in the history of the world. But you heard me earlier say demographics are destiny. The majority of our men and women who serve, it's become a family business. It's for other people's families to do. It should be all of our families to do. We want an all-volunteer force. You know, when I was in the military and as Secretary of the Army, I want to make sure the person on my left and my right wanted to be there. But it has to come from every segment of society. And it's not. And you have to ask yourself, are you part of the solution? Or are you part of the problem? Most of us in the military are not for war. Most of us see combat, never want to see it again. And in history, that has shown you, whether it was President Kennedy or, frankly, look at my congressional record when I stood there with then Senator Obama calling for the Iraq De-Escalation Act. The reality of it is that when you look at the demographics, where it's less than 1% of America right now, the future of the all-volunteer force, when the economy is improving like it is, 72 straight months of job growth, needs help. And needs folks like you. So if you have a family member, if you have a friend, if you have mentees, let them know the good things about the Army. The other branches are okay, but we are America's varsity team, okay? But there's 2 former Army officers that are up in orbit right now as astronauts. There's small businesses throughout the country that are being started by veterans that are going to be the next Bill Bowermans and Ralph Roberts and Alex Gorskys. But they all got their start learning the values of duty, honor, and country. And when we talk about access to justice, when those veterans go back and they transition out of the Department of Defense back home, as the demographics are smaller, when it used to be 10% World War II that served in combat, now it's less than 1%. That's when we need you in this room and the folks you work with out in America to help out. Because we cannot let veterans fall through the cracks. When you have 22 of them committing suicide every day, that's an epidemic. And that's our country. And we all have a responsibility to do more. Now, listen, my mother was a Catholic nun. Luckily for me, she left the convent, otherwise I wouldn't be here. And my claim to fame is I was the 1987 Altar Boy of the Year. So thank you. Well, that's not why I was telling, but I appreciate that. And I do feel like I am, frankly, preaching to the choir, not to the congregation. But let's face it, I don't get a chance to talk at the White House very often, so this is pretty cool. You're all welcome to come over to the Pentagon. By the way, we do tours of the Pentagon. You pay for it. It's a great building, largest office complex in the world. 25,000 people work in that building. I happen to be one of them. But think about that. Think about, one, as I asked you to do, reach out to legal services, ask them if that clinic's doing work with veterans. Are they doing things like are they pushing for veterans courts? If you're, the Chief Justice, you guys are the bosses. I mean, come on. Every county, wherever you are, even in Texas, I know you have them in there, but we could do better. Come on. We could do better in Pennsylvania as well. Although, let's face it, Pennsylvania, I think, is the 6th largest state, and we have more veterans courts than any other state in the country. So if you want to make this a competition, we'll come back next year and see how you're doing. Number 2, please help us change the narrative. It's critically important. It has not been helpful for only $19 a month, those commercials that you see. Their marketing budget's double what the Army's is. So please, let your friends and family know, hey, It's an honorable profession. And whether people do it for 3 years or 30 years, those values that you learn make you a true civic asset. And third, think about recruiting the next generation so we can maintain all volunteer force. Access to justice is critically important. When I taught on day one at West Point on constitutional law, it was a mandatory class. It's actually the last class you take before you take an oath to support and defend the Constitution as an Army officer. So the last core class you take at West Point is constitutional law and military justice. And the first day teaching about the values, frankly, that in our day-to-day life we take for granted, like separation of powers, rule of law, equality. But let's face it, access to justice is the rule of law. The rule of law, as you know, is no one is above the law, whether you're the President of the United States or the wealthiest person. But if you don't have access to justice, that goes against the very fabric of the blueprint of our nation, the Constitution. So if you think about that, if there's anything I could do to be helpful as the Secretary of the Army, the Pentagon, or elsewhere, you please let me know. God bless all of you. Thank you so much for having me.
When he was a congressman, and I had just become the chair of legal services, he called me up and he said two things. He said, there are vet centers. There are vet centers around the country in, I think, every district. They're unmarked. Vets come in and we know that they see the counselors, and the counselors tell us they have legal problems, but they don't know where the legal aid clinics are. So with his help, we organized immediately an awareness campaign so that the vet centers and the legal aid clinics would know where each other were, and they were usually just about a block or two away. And it's been a tremendous thing. And the second thing was that he said, you know, of the issues that are confronting veterans, legal issues are near the top. And so our board has been very deliberate, intentionally deliberate, but because of your advice about vet issues confronting veterans. So thank you so much. Thank you for your service. And you're terrific. And